I thought it would be fun to have my lovely subscribers guess my next remake, so I shared this post showing the pieces I'd be using. We have a sheer maxi skirt, a vintage dress, and a pair of swim shorts. A few of you guessed that a bodysuit would be involved, using the top half of the vintage dress with the shorts. But here's what I actually used for the remake. As you can see here, the only part of the vintage dress that I used were the sleeves. Not sure if anyone noticed, but the maxi skirt was partially lined with a mini underneath. I admit it was hard to tell from the post, but yes, there is a bodysuit involved. Here's how. I first turned the skirt inside out, pulling the sheer overlay up and out of the way. To create the bodysuit from the lining, I started by removing the hip curves to form more of a tube top. So using my ruler, I drew a line on both sides, about a ½ inch from the top of the side seam, tapering it off at the bottom. I then sewed following the lines, then trimmed the allowance to remove the excess. Now it was time to attach the shorts to the top, but first I removed the waistband. The shorts were lined, which made the fabric a little slippery, so I pinned the waist together beforehand. There were two things I needed to do before joining them. One was making sure they were the same width, so I marked the center front of the top first, then aligned the center points together. As you can see, I needed to take in the shorts quite a bit. That's because there were two sizes too big. I had a hard time finding one in the color and size that I wanted, so I went with these. To determine how much I needed to take in, I followed the side seams on the top, then marked where my new side seams would be. From there, I drew a diagonal line, tapering it off into the original seam. I then sewed following the lines before removing the excess. Now the other thing I needed to do was to adjust the length of the top to fit my torso. The quickest way I found to do this was to first put on the top, then pull on the shorts over it so they overlap at the waist. Once I was happy with the fit, I marked across the front at the waistline. And yes, I did this with it on. I then used my ruler to clean up the markings before cutting. Now it was finally time to join them. With right sides facing, I sandwiched the shorts between the top, then matched and pinned the side seams together first. I then pinned the rest of the waist before finishing with a small zigzag stitch. To add the snaps, I first undid the crotch seam. Since the fabric stretches, I reinforce the air with a piece of non-stretch material so it doesn't warp over time. For that, I used ribbon. I placed one side of the crotch on the ribbon a 1/4 inch from the edge, then folded the end of the ribbon over a 1/2 inch. I then wrapped the ribbon over to encase the area. From there, I folded under the other end of the ribbon, also by a 1/2 inch, before securing it with a straight stitch. The same was done for the other side. Here's what it looks like all done. Now we have a nice solid base to sew our snaps. I added 3 sets in total, placing one part on the right side of the back crotch and the other on the wrong side of the front. It doesn't matter which part of the snap goes on the top or bottom, just make sure that the front crotch overlaps onto the back and that the snaps are aligned correctly. By the way, you can use press-on ones for this as well. To add some shape to the dress, I added elastic at the waist. Since the fabric was gathered, it made it a little challenging, but what I did was first measure and mark where my waist would be all around. I chose to create a channel for the elastic, and for that I used ribbon. Using the markings as a guide, I pinned and sewed both sides of the ribbon to form the channel. Here it is all done. I folded under the ends of the ribbon at the side seam, which left an opening for the elastic. With a small safety pin attached to one end of the elastic, I fed it through the channel. Once I was happy with the fit, I joined the ends of the elastic together. Now before adding the sleeves to the dress, I first had to finish the raw edges. Because of the shape of the sleeve cap, turning the edge under twice wasn't an option. I could have just serged the edge and turned it over once, but I wanted to reinforce the opening. So once again, I used ribbon. With right sides facing, I pinned the ribbon along the sleeve cap, starting at the sleeve seam and leaving a 1/2 inch overhang. I then sewed around the opening a 1/4 inch from the edge. I also sewed the ends of the ribbons closed. Afterwards, I turned the ribbon onto the wrong side of the sleeve, then pinned and sewed the other edge to form a channel. When sewing, I left an opening to insert the elastic. Next, I inserted the elastic through the opening the same way I did the waist. Before joining the ends and closing the opening, I tried on the sleeve to ensure it had a snug fit. Now it was time to finally attach the sleeves. But first, I pushed the gathers towards the top and away from the sleeve seam. I then aligned and pinned the seam with the side seam on the dress. From there, I measured and marked 3 inches across the armhole, with 1.5 inches on either side of the seam. Lastly, I sewed between the markings along the bottom of the ribbon. This was done to make room for my arms to sit. And we are done! That wraps it up for today's video. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Of course, you could also follow this using a basic maxi skirt without the bodysuit. If you do, I'd love to see your version. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to partake in the next Guess That remake, follow me on the gram and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time.